Hey, whoa, hi, hello there. Kaz, where the heck have you been? Welcome back to another Embrace Destiny video. Thank you all very much for coming by. It's been a while. Mostly I've been working on some things in real life and behind the scenes, and this is one of them. I had a fellow lore master, Trams87, link to his channel down below, decide to come over and we did a lore masters panel. This followed Bungie's very short reveal of some stasis powers during the Gamescom event. So we went into it for about an hour and a half talking about lore, this season, Beyond Light, what's to come, and learning a little bit about being a lore enthusiast and lore content creator. So I hope you enjoy. This is all part of a charity event. You can see how much we've raised in the video. The link will be in the description below. We have 1 week left of the charity event. All right, let me just give you quick details. Extra Life Foundation is a charity that raises money for children's hospitals, children's medical supplies. And not only, would it be a nice thing and it feels good, but every $10 donation will enter you into a contest either for Beyond Light or for a Destiny lore book of your choosing. So get on in there, check out the link if you're interested. If you want to help, share the link with others, get them to donate in your name. And this Sunday night coming up, September 6th, we're going to do the prize draw and maybe a win. So tell everybody about it. And without further ado, I hope you enjoy this lore masters panel.
It happens.
We'll put it up on stream later. Chat, hello, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for jumping in and joining us. Unlike a certain Gamescom stream, we're going to try and get right to the point early on and give you a bit of a schedule while we do. Tonight, we are talking about lore. We are basically going over everything that we can from that stream that we just saw. Not that there was a lot. Sorry, I'm a little grumpy about it. And we're going to be talking about the lore of this season, the lore of Season of Arrivals, and beyond. So, before I go any further, I just want to introduce my fellow co-host here, Trams87. If at any time you want to check out his work or bookmark it, save it, add it, etc., you can type !trams into the chat. Boom, there's his link. Trams, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for asking me to be on the live stream.
Yeah, of
Looking
course.
forward to talking about Destiny, Beyond Light, and just hanging out with you and everybody.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, this is a first for the channel. Normally, I have a very specific setup, which is why the first part of the stream today was so all over the place. But yeah, so it's a lot of firsts for me. Hosting another person, doing it live, doing a lore panel. I mean, I've jumped into a podcast or two, but no, it's honestly it's great to have you here, and yeah, hopefully it'll be the first of many.
Oh, we definitely have to get you on some more podcasts. That has to happen.
Well, have you been on a lot? I had a really weird April where I was on two of them like back to back, and that was really cool. But um, yeah, have you been on many like lore podcasts in the community or anything like that?
I have not just yet. Well, I did. I made a quick guest appearance on Jarv's live stream. He streams on YouTube, but yeah, he asked me to jump in to explain. I think it was it the week before last's contact event
Mm.
lore entry that was added. Eris was talking about um, the darkness.
What is it, you right?
People, right?
Was it?
Basically, the lore entry was about Savathun.
Mm-hmm.
Savathun and man, I really didn't read that
Was it
entry a
the
whole
was
lot.
it
But
the
anyway,
one
yeah,
where she
Savathun and
yeah, was it the one where she was saying that, to prepare for winter, you have to let's see. I'm looking at them now. So we've got
yeah,
petulant, basically a rebuke to Savathun for her interference.
yes, that's the one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was petulant.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So trying to figure out exactly what Savathun is up to how's she working with the hive, etc. Dude, that's funny. Dude says,
Yeah,
looks like technical
basically.
difficulties are putting the stream in stasis for a bit. Haha. I like puns. Well done. Yeah, we've been hit by that frozen grenade already and messed up the
Right.
first part. Yeah, well, yeah, well, we have to get you on some. We have to get you on some lore podcasts as well. I mean, so folks, if you don't know, if you haven't seen it, Trams does videos. He's a lot better at, let's call it, cadence than I am. What I mean by that is he puts up more content than I do, and it's very polished, very nice stuff. Usually, very focused on either some big things that are coming or specific areas in that. So I guess just a very short part before we jump into talking about the lore that we saw. Um, what got you into Destiny's lore, and then subsequently into making videos and content about it?
First of all, you're like modest because you're streaming like daily. I think I upload like once a week, but yeah, no, I definitely thank you. I appreciate that. What got me to lore? So I had been interested in Halo back in the day, but a I didn't have a good enough console at the time. I think I was still using like a PlayStation 2, and so I'd only played like a few of the Halo games, and then I had heard about Destiny, and the whole idea of it just drew me in. A lot of the concept art and the theatrical posters that they did. I think like they did the original Destiny poster was like the early version of the Traveler, and then it had like 3 or 4 Guardians stood underneath it, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like looking up, and then like the huge globe with the word Destiny on it. It was kind of blue, I think the color was, but at the time, I'm not even sure if that poster still exists. I think that was like a pre-alpha kind of concept art. But pretty much from then on, I didn't have a console then, but the overall world drew me in, and I remember Bungie talking about bringing it to PC at some point in the future. Obviously, that was like 4 or nearly 5 years later, and then they were like, Destiny's coming to PC. It was like, yes, finally. It was like Destiny 2. Oh, okay. Well, right. I hope I get to play Destiny 1, but that wasn't the case. But yeah, that's kind of how it all started. But I guess it's all about stories, really, for me. That's what drew me in, is the storytelling, the lore, the world building, all of that good stuff.
And then what inspires you to make videos on it? I mean, there's a difference between. I mean, it's a lot of work, right? So what brought you into it, and what brings you back to it, week to week?
It's interesting. I kind of had a love-hate relationship with YouTube over the last like 3 or 4 years. I had a different channel that did different stuff, different creative projects. Like it began as a channel doing like Pokemon Go videos, is what I used to do, and that led into other creative work, music, and other outlets. And it was just I burned out, basically, is what happened with that. And so for the last like I think 2 years now, well, 2 years then I had stopped, and then I don't know, I got back into Destiny. So with Destiny 2, I had been around for the beta, and then played the first campaign, which was the Red War. I stuck around until I think, well, I disappeared just before Curse of Osiris, came back for Curse of Osiris, stuck around until Warmind, then disappeared toward the end of Warmind, and then came back for Forsaken, and then completely dropped Destiny. I was just like, oh, I don't want to play this game anymore. Nobody to play it with. It's too difficult. Blah blah blah. I just completely lost interest, and I think at the time I was more into like MMOs, other games that are like my background. So I focused mostly on playing things like Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 stole many hours of my life. gaming, that and Black Desert Online and a few other games that were similar. Warframe was a big one that actually had my attention for a long time before Destiny was a thing, and I think it was when I was kind of getting burned out on Warframe that Destiny 2 was coming out, and I was like, right, it's time to make that switch. Like, I'd always loved Destiny. I wanted to come and check it out, so that's how that happened. But yeah, the YouTube thing, it's really just been about, I guess, like being able to tell stories. So one of my dreams has always been to eventually have my own games design studio and make my own games. So creating these lore videos is kind of like a way for me to, I guess, upskill and work on writing stories, scripting, all of that kind of stuff. I do a little bit of illustration as well, working on that, and just overall creating lore videos to get better at doing all of those things. So communication, organization, all of that stuff. So
Nice. Yeah, it makes sense. Taco. Yeah, Taco. We've got the Dropbox open. If I can make it work, I may try to switch over to it at some point. Actually, I'm gonna reopen that now while we're hanging out. No, I mean that makes sense. Like that's a good way of going about it, right? Where you're able to combine passions and kind of teach yourself skills while you're enjoying the process.
yeah, exactly.
A lot of times when you're trying to work towards something, the goal, like if the goal is to get in shape, you usually want to have a specific goal, like run a race or whatever. So you kind of need both, right? You need the specific and you need the overarching, I think. So yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, you're right. They do have weapons and stuff. Cool.
Yeah, they do. I was just I had Twitter open, and one of the I guess devs or producers was talking about how Stasis is not ice. But I was like, well, hang on a second. Isn't there such a thing as black ice? And black ice is like one of the most dangerous types of ice that you can be near, isn't it? It's like it tends to be very dangerous to either walk on, or it can cause like serious damage to property or like things.
Yeah,
I forget. I'm gonna have to Google it.
No, yeah, that's black ice is what they call the generally thin, very dangerous driving conditions and stuff like that. It's interesting, right? So stasis. All right, we might as well get into it. Let me check one thing, chat, to see if I can make this work this time. No promises. If I do this, yeah, okay, cool. We can see things. I don't know if I can do both. If I do this, will you continue to see it? I think so. I need to open it on my.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it looks great.
Cool. All right. So we got a trailer today. Is the trailer also in Dropbox? Probably.
Oh, yes, it is actually.
Yeah.
I did see that in there.
Let's go back and try that out, chat. So we're gonna. Oh, these are screenshots. Hold on. Gamescom Light. Where is the trailer exactly? Is it in the folder Beyond Light Gamescom? Oh, that's.
Let me have a quick look.
Yeah, I think we got.
Yeah, it should be. It's inside the Gamescom.
Alright, let's see if chat is still seeing it. They're not. It doesn't update for some reason. I don't understand you, OBS. If I switch away and switch back.
Strange.
Yeah, like I was literally just looking at something and then it goes, no. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still showing.
We'll look back at IO for now, and I'm gonna. We'll have to share some of these images later. If you're wanting to check out some of these images yourselves and you can't rely on me to find them, just basically Google Destiny 2 press kit It'll take you to a forum. There'll be a link. You'll go to Dropbox. Always check that in the beginning of new seasons and things like this. You'll be able to catch some of the the images that all content creators are putting out, the trailer. But yeah, we've basically seen the trailer already. I mean, I'm a little
Ooh,
grumpy.
there is a webpage also.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I can't get it to work, so it's okay. So basically, chat, we saw an earlier a trailer earlier this summer. We saw the the kind of the teaser for Stasis and Beyond Light. Looks very ice-like, and then they showed it again during Gamescom here, just about half an hour ago at this point. Initial impressions, Trams. What'd you think?
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, I think it's one of those things where you had to go in with a low expectation. And I don't know if that sounds negative or positive, but I think that I can respect them not giving us more, to be entirely honest, because Stasis is just one element of this brand new baby of essentially what would have technically been Destiny 3 for various reasons everybody already knows. So yeah, I think this little teaser is good. Enough information for people to run wild with, and I'm sure like in the next coming weeks, as we get closer to the full reveal, they'll give us more information on exactly like what everything is. And I see they've put the Exo Stranger there, so we know she's going to have a very prominent presence throughout the DLC. So that's good. That's exciting.
Yeah, it was nice to see them showcase the specific. I don't know what we want to call them, stasis supers or stasis abilities, right? Like, so with the they all seem to have a similar seem to have a similar operation, which is freeze everything in front of you and then smash it. That was kind of something I saw right up front. Was like the warlock with their staff. The Titan sends like a shockwave in front of them, and the hunter. Well, how did the hunters work? It was
the hunter is the Revenant, I think it was. I think I've got it up here. I'm trying to work out which one is the hunters.
Well, they're the ones they've got like two blades that they flip around and they throw at some point.
The Tomahawks.
Yeah.
Which are like, I guess, miniature axes with a curved blade. They're usually more like, trying to remember, what's that? Is it Greek mythology? Kratos. Kind of like Kratos' axe.
Yeah. Yeah, I had the same thought.
Curved.
Yeah, they also look like ice picks, as Taco is saying, which is true. I have to admit, when I first saw the reveal for Stasis, I was a little surprised. When they told us we were going to be, taking on powers of the darkness, well, I thought it would look more like the Taken. They're, as far as we know, they're one of the closest representatives of the darkness. The power is basically said to have come from the deep, and I mean, there was that Destiny concept art that everybody's always pointing to, right? The like wispy characters that look like Shadow come alive, and I don't know. I honestly thought it would look more like that. I thought it would be all about like corruption and illusion, I guess. So kind of surprising to see. Yeah, I could see why Bungie is having to like, push back. Be like, it's not ice, you guys. It's like, well, it's blue and it freezes people, so So what's your take on that, Trams? What, like, lore-wise, what? I mean, I think you did a video or two on this, haven't you? Like, what Stasis is? Maybe we can walk the audience through what you think Stasis is exactly.
Yeah, it's really it's interesting, like having done that video so long ago now. This is like this was, I think, after they had announced Stasis was coming. I'm pretty sure I was one of the first people to do a video just talking about what the lore is, I guess, is where I focused behind Stasis. And one particular point of interest was the hobgoblins, the Vex hobgoblins.
Mm-hmm.
And because usually if you shoot a hobgoblin, it'll encase itself in like a shielding. But apparently, based on one of the lore cards I read from Ishtar Collective, that it actually goes into stasis, and it talks about what that stasis is, how it's a place of like nothingness. So not quite the void, but it's like void of everything else, void of light, void of dark, void of void. It's just an empty space. So I thought that was interesting, because I think that that's something that the stasis subclass is going to lean into, and I think that that's why Bungie's being very quiet about what is what's in, like what is stasis, because lots of people keep asking that. Like, I get my people tweeting me right now saying like, is it ice, is it, and one of the devs was like, it's not ice. So it'd be interesting to see how they explain that from a lore standpoint.
Yeah, I've seen some theory going around that similar to what you're saying, but from a slightly different angle. That stasis is entropy. It's emptiness. The idea that light is associated with heat, and the light is associated with with congregation and building up, right? And the idea that stasis would be the opposite. Stasis would be about tearing down and separation. I don't know. It's it's definitely going to be interesting to see. We've been building up toward it, but to be honest, chat, there hasn't really been any real discussion as to what. Oh, there we go. There's the stasis he was talking about. We'll talk about it now.
Oh yeah, there you go. Geometrical mentioned it. Ice picks. Yeah, pretty much. They look like ice picks.
Yeah.
Or like mini Reaper spears, just very short.
Yeah.
Short handles.
And it's interesting because Bungie's been releasing lore hints for the long time now. I mean, if you were to go into the lore card for, I think it's Telesto, maybe, there's an exotic weapon that if you read the lore for it, it gives a hint as to Forsaken. Was it Telesto? Let's check it out.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So where is it? There's another one that basically reveals the entire, like, the plot of Forsaken. So Bungie's in the habit of releasing something, but to be honest, they haven't really done that for Beyond Light. I mean, we know, and I'm crossing the stasis with the Beyond Light lore here in terms of our topics, chat. But yeah, we know that. We know the premise. The premise is we will go and take on darkness powers so that we will go and fight a fellow fallen who has taken on darkness powers as well. But we don't really know what those are, why we have them, why now. I mean, I guess it's safe to assume that stasis must either be a gift from the pyramids or a new, like, whether it's new as in new to us or new to the universe of the game, it's got to be either from the tree or from the pyramids, right? It's the only new elements in the system. Because, like, it's
that's right.
it's possible that stasis has existed, like, in the lore somewhere else, just as the light, exists with the traveler somewhere else. But but yeah, like Stasis is new as far as we know, and those are the only two elements this season. Is so. I mean, what do you? I guess. What do you think? Do you think it's the pyramids themselves are gifting it, or laying it out for us to use, or does it have to do with the tree of silver wings that we've been seeing week to week, the interference mission?
I think Stasis is in completely separate
Hmm.
from the pyramids, and like, okay, that probably sounds super outlandish, but so far everything we've been shown doesn't lead us to believe the that Stasis is gonna specifically or like entirely come from uh the pyramids. And here's why. If we look at the Fallen, for example, I would use the Fallen, sorry, not the Fallen, Taken. The
Hmm.
Taken are essentially like the alpha version of Stasis because they are both light and dark. Like if you ever look at any Taken, um, any part of that faction, you notice that they have both light and dark. They're covered in it.
Hmm.
So I feel like that's essentially what Stasis is. I think it's just further along in the process of exactly just like the Harbinger's Echo that you're showing right now. That's a classic example. Like it's black at the top, but white towards the edges.
Hmm.
So I think that that's what we're getting a form of. I also think that Stasis is just the beginning of what the darkness subclass will be. I think we'll get further along where the more we use it, it will change the same way they treat it, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And it may or may not be all about how individuals use their stasis abilities that affects what it changes into. Because at least we know so far, according to Luke Smith, that we are getting a completely different way of customizing our subclasses. So I would hope that that would mean then that depending on the choices we make, customizing our subclasses and how we use them affects maybe what they look like. That might be a lot of work
Hmm.
for Bungie, but they may have some like predetermined outcomes of if you add this in, you kind of get this kind of red kind of color. Like I noticed in the trailer, when each class uses their abilities, they have a slightly different hue, like a different light coloration. The
Hmm.
Titan seems to have more of like a light blue into lilac into like this kind of ruby shimmering red into white sometimes. Just depends. I don't know if that's just maybe a video effect or like they were intentional with the way it looks when you cast the supers. It could be that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and I was hoping for a little bit more as to how stasis mechanically will fit into the game. And I know this is a lore panel, folks, but the Destiny is interesting in that
It's
the
gonna break the game.
well, that's maybe yeah.
Incoming break the game. I mean, they showed us the brief PvP, not to digress, but
Oh yeah,
that was insane.
yeah. I mean, well, we got a lot of change coming, and if Beyond Light is even close in the impact that Forsaken was, it's going to completely change the game, right? And that's what happened with
Yeah.
Forsaken. It random rolls, double primary was no longer the thing. Uh, Completely changed the PVE and PvP experience. And in terms of mechanics, I mean, they said it's not going to directly act as its own subclass. It's like it seems like we're not just going to get another diamond over here that says, "Oh, this is stasis."
Hmm.
Um, I'm kind of wondering. See, I live on the extremes, chat. I can either be incredibly optimistic or incredibly like pragmatic. I'm wondering, do you think they'll just have like a feature where they don't build a new subclass node? They just say, well, you can just click on stasis, and now stasis will integrate with your, with your striker titan, with your sunbreaker. Um, Do you think
I
that?
would say
Yeah.
you can expect a lot of similar to what we had in D1, at least from the stream that Luke Smith did with, I think it was it Dr. Lupo. He asked him specifically about how we're going to be able to make tweaks or adjustments to the spec tree for each subclass, because people have asked for more customization. So I would hopefully, I say this with quotation marks, um, expect to see something along those lines, so that um, we get more options. I mean, they did say that if the Stasis subclass works out really well, then they'd look to do the same thing to the rest of these subclasses.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure how that will affect the the way things work, but like
Yeah.
it makes me feel that feels very MMO. I'll say that much. So, but that's also exciting.
Yeah. So just to review, chat. Stasis. Stasis is a very new thing to the universe of Destiny. There is no there's no reference in the lore that has been put out so far, or as far as we know will be out this season, that even references stasis. It's not like, there have been other creatures in the past who have had these abilities, or because the thing is with the lore of Destiny, there's a lot of stories that occur before Destiny 1 and before our Guardian. The Hive
That's right.
themselves, they had civilizations of conquering, and they conquered a whole quadrant of the universe before they even uh, before they even came to Earth. And yet there's not a single reference to stasis at all. Um, so that's why I think it's going to be something very new, and if not just new to us, but new to the universe. I'm speculating that if Trams, you're saying it may not be connected with the pyramids because the Taken are more connected with them. I'm wondering if the
Yeah.
darkness is trying to play a different game now. Um, so if for those who did the weekly quests with Eris, back when Shadowkeep came out, you may remember the Book of Unveiling. Every week you go visit Eris, she gives you a new lore card, and apparently it's the darkness, apparently, communicating directly to us. And there are a lot of really interesting pages in here, but essentially the darkness describes how it sets itself up as obviously the opposite of the traveler, of the gardener. And if the gardener's job is to grow and try new things, the darkness's job is to get rid of the trash, get rid of the stuff that's weak and doesn't deserve to survive. And the darkness isn't really in the habit of giving. The only time that it's ever really given is if you take from it. Oryx had to literally take the tablets that enabled him to learn the power to create the Taken. Um, but I'm wondering if the darkness is trying to play a different game. If they're saying, well, um, because all the messages we've been getting from the Singular Exigent from Eris this season, they all have the darkness apparently telling us that you're protected, but you are isolated. You need to break out of your shell. Um, you're on the cusp of something greater. We're going to give you a gift, and that's unusual. And yeah, I'm really excited for what Stasis is going to bring, but I really hope that they set it up uh, to explain what it is and where it comes from. Because yeah, we all want new cool abilities, but I'd like to know where it fits in the universe of the game.
Right. Exactly.
Now we've got some questions that came in earlier. Let me see if I can pull them up. Hold on. They are related to Beyond Light, so we can start with those. One moment.
Okay.
Scrolling. Okay. Okay, so first question. We're going to move into talking a little bit. We'll be mixing the topics here. We'll talk about Beyond Light. First question from Watersider. How have the Fallen, aka Aramis, how have they gotten a hold of darkness powers without us knowing? So, what do you think about that, Trams? I mean, we know that's the premise of Beyond Light. Aramis. We could do a little intro as to Aramis in a minute, but what do you think's going on there? Do you think she discovered something? Do you think she was gifted it? What's some of your ideas there? Have you seen anything in the lore that suggests where she might have gotten it?
I mean, it would make sense that the pyramid that's open on Europa right now, that the Exo Stranger has called the Drifter and Eris Morn to, I would assume that that pyramid is where Aramis took a shard of the pyramid, because it looks very much like that. So I think it's a case of one of those things where it's like the pyramid is just offering up the ability to do new things to those who seek the power, if that makes sense. Because like they really are playing like a devil's advocate with the whole just leave the light, the light's not good for you, what you want is the darkness, because we've got everything that you need. Even with the cutscene from Shadowkeep, the very last cutscene we get is them talking to us all about how they are our salvation. They're not our enemies, conveniently. So they're like, here, take this, and they've given us a gift. So they're clearly trying to persuade us away from using the light. So what's going to be interesting to see is whether or not that is, if we go with that, do we only use the light? And this is where I had said to you, I think a couple of days ago, I spoke about how I thought that the idea of taking things away and bringing certain things back was a way of like closing one chapter and opening a new one, essentially, but doing everything again from the ground up at the same time, if that makes sense. So the possibility of completely losing the light and only having this new Stasis subclass, or whatever other variants of this subclass that may come further along the line, because I would imagine that it's like how they introduced all the other elements, right? They had it would make sense that there would be a series, so 3 versions of this form of light. It would be really weird for them to only do Stasis and that would be it for the next 3 years. I would assume that we'd get Stasis, maybe one other one. I don't know if that would actually be called darkness, some other form of a darker light, and then the final form being the darkness itself. Could be a possibility. These are just theories that I've had whilst thinking about, digging through gameplay and stuff. But
it's funny. Earlier on, you had mentioned, the Aramis takes a shard, right? A shard of the pyramid, and I just remembered that we have seen 2 separate times in Destiny, we have seen characters use shards of the Traveler. The cutscene with Aldrin in Forsaken, he approaches the shard of the Traveler, like a big piece of the Traveler, and he literally extracts a piece of it, like that fits in his hand, and he uses that.
That's right.
Right, to open the rift into the watchtower and the Dreaming City. And the second time is in the tribute hall. Apparently, Callus somehow has gotten his hands on a piece of the Traveler, and when you are in the tribute hall, you can actually stand near it and obtain the power of the light. So, yeah, I guess it stands to reason that Aramis has somehow captured a piece of the pyramid ship, or something related to it, and was able to get darkness that way. And it kind of relates to some dialogue we got early on where the ghost claims that he doesn't see a ship, he sees a paracausal creature. He sees, he doesn't, when he looks up there, he doesn't see a craft that contains things. He sees one creature that's hovering. And I guess the little scout ships are extensions of that as well. I mean, kind of like the ghosts are extensions of the travelers. So, now for those,
So
yeah,
that's super interesting. Yeah.
yeah. Now for those who don't know and wondering who the heck is this Aramis person, why is she being brought up in as the villain of Beyond Light? Well, if you did the 0 hour mission for Outbreak, or if you collected some lore earlier in the game, Aramis is basically your typical Fallen. Honestly, she escaped from the prison of elders during Forsaken when we were hunting down Aldrin and the Barons, and she has been trying to reunite the House of Devils and trying to basically, get up to the same old nefarious activities. The Fallen in general, for a long time, have they've been chasing the Traveler. The Traveler was their god, and Aramis has been trying to steal it back. And during the 0 hour mission, she tried to steal Outbreak, because Outbreak contained Siva, which is also another powerful tool that they could use. So yeah, it looks like she finally said, you know what? If I can't have the Traveler, I guess no one can. And that's kind of what she's doing, I guess. Where was it? No, that's Fickroll, and there we go. VIP 2029. Aramis the Ship Stealer. Yeah, incarcerated during the Wolf Wars. So, yeah, she's got a bit of a long history of being, like Savathun, being really behind the shadows. I personally think that this coming year is going to be very focused on the Fallen. And that kind of relates to a second question we have here, also from Waterside or chat. If you guys have questions as well, put them down in the chat at any point. We'll try to fit them in. Second question: what part do you think Aramis, Varix, and Mythrax will play in Beyond Light?
Ooh, it's a good question.
Yeah. Now I could start if you'd like. I have some thoughts on this. So if you pre-order Beyond Light, you get this rhymed shell. I'm sure you'll get it when Beyond Light comes in, and the lore for it reads very similarly to the Stolen Intelligence page I was just showing everyone. And basically, short version, it kind of just says what we know. There's a bunch of Fallen on a planetoid named Nilfheim, which is a reference to a cold, Norse place, very clearly going to be Europa. And we know Aramis is there, VIP 2029, as well as 3 other characters. We don't know who they are. These have never been identified or listed before. And as well, where is it? Where? Yeah.
So
right. We also know that.
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
I was just gonna say we also know that Varix is gonna be there, but as this lore card says, we have no idea what his role is. So yeah, maybe Trams, if you have some thoughts, you can get started.
Mm-hmm. So at the beginning of that lore entry, there are I think 4 or 5 numbers, and each of those sequence of numbers represent a prisoner from the prison of elders.
Mm-hmm.
I forget which people specifically, but those are the Praxis Order tags for very important people, or very important, those people that they're tracking, basically, who they keep a close eye on. So all those numbers represent each of those prisoners' cells. So one of them is obviously Varix, one is Aramis, and I'm not sure who the other 2 are. Neither of those are
well, that's what
Kel from the House of Light, but yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like VIP 2029 was listed earlier. That's Aramis. VIP 1121 is Varix, but these three here, these three are new. Um,
Yeah.
these three were not listed in the earlier page. They're quite higher in number actually than the others as well. I believe the Stolen Intelligence only went as high as 4,000. So yeah, these are going to be likely three of her lieutenants or something. I would imagine if we follow the Forsaken model, you're going to have the big bad, Aldrin, Aramis, and you're going to have the, the Scorn Barons or the, you know, Darkness lieutenants or something. Somebody close to her, but we haven't seen who those VIPs are exactly or what their role is.
Yeah, I think I have to find the lore entry, but I know there's a lore entry that from the Praxis Order that talks about. In fact, it's a report. It's a report that talks about activity on Europa, and they're reporting to, I want to say, Ikora Ray about what they found and how, like, something needs to be done because they're gathering on Europa, and it talks about which houses have gathered under. So I think they said some remnants from the House of Wolves, House Judgment, and then I can't remember what the other house was. I think it was like
Kings?
Kings, yeah. House Kings. So I don't know if one of the Kells from House Kings is still alive. Sorry, one of the Kells. There's only one Kell. I think the Kell of House Kings may be one of them. I'm not sure, but we'll find out soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, going on that question, who are the characters you mentioned? Aramis, Varix, and Mythrax, right? So, I have this theory that this year Destiny is going to feature a fallen civil war of some kind. Basically, we start in November with Beyond Light, and we've got this very typical Fallen who is, other than the fact that she's using Stasis or the Darkness, it seems like her goals are very similar to what the Fallen always are. Maybe a little bit different. Instead of trying to capture the Traveler, they're going to just try to take it, they're trying to capture power for themselves and use it against us. Now, Varix is a wild card. We'll come back to him in a second. Mythrax seems more obvious. So, Chad, if you're not familiar with Mythrax, when you start the 0 hour mission and you go to the farm, that fallen captain that you have to speak to is Mythrax. He's a character who's mentioned on a few exotic lore cards, specifically Queensbreaker, Outbreak Perfected, and Lord of Wolves. And what's cool about him is that he apparently has a fire team. He is working with a hunter and a warlock guardian, and they are off on adventures. And he's the one who tells us about the threat to 0 hour and gets us to stop Aramis in her tracks. So it seems like he's being set up as some kind of, quote unquote good guy or someone who's going to be on our side. Someone, who is forming the House of Light. He's apparently, he's working with Guardians. He's even mentioned in a lore tab a web lore, a narrative lore. One of the last messages that Osiris has for Saint 14 is he tells him, you should go talk to the House of Light. And so Saint is a little hesitant on that because he hasn't had a good history with the Fallen, but oh, hey, Skrillex23, thank you very much for following. I'll drop a little welcome message in the chat if you'd like to know more about us here. There we go. So I mean, yeah, it seems like Mythrax and Aramis are two opposites, right? You've got a Fallen who wants to work with humanity, and you've got a Fallen who really does not want to work with humanity. So
Yeah, exactly.
I think they're kind of setting that up. And then Varix, wild card. I mean, in Destiny 1, Varix was presented as someone on our side. He, you know, he saw that you know, his great civilization had fallen. Well, yeah, had fallen. Um, and he was trying to, you know, trying to rebuild some honor and dignity amongst the Elixni. But the lore specifically, again, the lore in. Hold on, I'm being shot. There we go. Another day in the life of a guardian. So during the, if you explore the Tangled Shore, was it here? Most loyal. Where is it? I can't find it. Yeah, there's a book about Varix, and surely is not in the light. That oh, it is. Interesting. So this book about Varix talks about Varix the Loyal and how he was trying to be loyal not only to the Awoken at some point, but loyal to the ancient ways of the Elixni. But throughout this lore book, he gets more and more jaded, more and more dissatisfied with the way things are, until he eventually, I mean, he's technically the reason why the Prison of Elders opened. He unleashed. He at the end of that lore book, he grows extremely dissatisfied, and he decides to leave. He opens the Prison of Elders to act as a kind of decoy, and he takes off. So, I mean,
So,
as much as Varix has wanted to be we want him to be an ally from Destiny 1, we kind of have him to blame for the events of Forsaken, in a way. But yeah.
so I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'm not sure how many people know about this, and it's not something that has been discussed, which is why I did a video on it. But of course, you know, anyway. But so the nine are actually the cause. So no, I haven't seen any video talking about this, but the nine are actually the cause for everything. The nine caused the Red War. The nine the nine got Varix to release the Barons from the Prison of Elders and Aldred, and caused all of that stuff to happen. The nine knew about Riven. They knew about Morosov. It was all a ploy in order for them to study and learn how the light can be taken from Guardians. Can it be wielded? Can anybody else use the light without being chosen? And the reason they did that was because we got rid of the Ahamkara. And I touched on this when I did a video recently, where there's a lore entry from Lavinia, I think is her name. She's actually come up a lot in the lore recently, in the last like 2 months, if you spend as much time reading lore as we do. But basically, Lavinia's theory is that when the Great Ahamkara hunt happened, the Nine sent Zer because we got rid of all the Ahamkara. And the Ahamkara are paracausal beings who have the ability to basically make anything happen. And obviously, if you've read the Nine lore, the Nine are interested in basically escaping their form of existence right now, because the Nine are basically tethered to every piece of life on every planet in the Sol system, and also in the Jovians, which is in the Saturnian system, which is further out, way past our solar system. We haven't really got that far yet, but yeah, so the Nine are interested in, you know, releasing themselves from the confines of their existence right now, and they're broken into two factions. So there's the light side of the Nine, and then there's the dark side of the Nine. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that all gets pieced together. But Varix basically had the Nine visited him in his I'm not sure if it was in his cell or wherever it is that he was in control, and spoke to him about basically releasing everybody in the Prison of Elders to trigger the loss of Cade and all the other events that happened, um, excuse me, that have led us to where we are now, because the Nine already knew about the pyramids and where they were and stuff. So, yeah, really, really interesting stuff. Great lore books. You should definitely read them if you get the chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the nine have been around for a while, and we got a little bit more about them. We learned a little bit more about them this year, but we also have questions remaining. Now, chat, couple of things. One, if you want a way to find all the lore that you can find in Destiny 2, you can check out the link that's coming up in the channel. There's a Google Doc there with a spreadsheet. You can go around, find all the lore pieces. And if you're like, well, ain't nobody got time for that, probably one of the best resources out there for reading all the lore is the Ishtar Collective website. ISHTAR Collective. They've got all the lore. You can search through it. You can. It's organized by when it came out and by topic. Very useful. We refer to that all the time because there's lore spread across so many different sources. So, but I agree. The nine have been, they've been boogeymen. They've been brought up in the game for forever. They've just like if you want to, for those who like to partake, if you want to make a drinking game that will be very dangerous very fast, basically take a shot every time you hear about Mara Sov being connected with something. And the same thing is true with the nine. The nine are connected to everyone. And yeah, we learned that the nine some of the nine blinded the Vanguard. They blinded the city and blinded them to Gaul coming because they wanted to see, could the Cabal succeed? Could they trap the light? Could they trap the Traveler? And the leading theory, as Trams was saying, is that they want to find a way to oh, wow, I didn't kill you? Okay. They want to find a way to exist without the dependence on us and on life. I guess they've been working to try and separate themselves from that, but it's where they've come from. They've come from our solar system as a piece of it, and yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. I mean, I wonder if we're going to see more. The nine have come up this season, right? They told us about in prophecy. They directed us to try to understand what's coming in season in next season. I don't know. It seems strange, right? Like, why, if some of the nine told Gaul how, blinded us to Gaul, seemingly working against us, and some nine have also told Varix to open up the Prison of Elders again. I mean, maybe that one's less directly working against us, but the result is the same. But then again, this season, the nine are answering our question as to, what are we going to do with the darkness? Which is their answer in, if you haven't done the prophecy dungeon, essentially, they tell us we need to use both. We need to use light and darkness in order to move ahead, in order to evolve. It's kind of curious. That's another thing that I keep bringing up is why. Why does the darkness? I mean, let's say that the darkness wants us to use the power of stasis for some reason.
Yeah.
But why? I mean, does it think we're gonna just turn around and fight the Traveler? It almost seems like. Well, first off, the Traveler hasn't really done anything. Yeah, the Traveler hasn't really done anything in a while, and I don't know. I almost feel like the darkness is saying, no, you're not prepared for what's to come. You need to use stasis. And if that's the case, what's to come? Because the only other threat we've heard about is Savathun, and I'm sorry, but if you have the power of the light and the darkness, it seems like that would be enough to take on Savathun. I don't know. That's a lot of
Well,
speculation. So go for it,
it's
champs.
yeah. I mean, there's so many. I mean, there's there's a lot of different forces at work. Like we don't even know if the pyramids are endgame. Because the pyramids could just be like the Taken, like the Hive. They're just an emissary of the true form of what the darkness is. Um, because everything we know about the Golden Age and the pyramids is limited. We just know that they showed up, and it's like, oh, the Traveler runs from them, but the Traveler, according to like the lore entry fundament, ran from the Hive as well, like like the early Hive, proto Hive,
Mm-hmm.
and he had gifted all the different civilizations that he worked with there at the time, like the Ecumene and also the Ammonites. Ammonites were also a race on Fundament who had technology that was advanced, and the Hive like were defeated by them. Then the Hive came back when Oryx was reincarnate, defeated them, took their technology, and it's actually the Ammonites' technology that the Hive use today to like fly their ships and all of that stuff. It's a form of what they had then. Um, but the Traveler ran, and what's really interesting is I was reading, I think it was this week, that the Traveler escaped with the Queen, the former Queen of the Hive that killed uh, Teox and Oryx and Savathun, Severoth's uh, father, even though he was senile. But yeah, their family lineage is crazy. But yeah, she escaped with the Traveler, and also the Leviathan tried to escape too. So it's really there's some like blanks in some of those lore entries in terms of the characters that were the earlier versions of entities that we know of today. Like the Traveler then is more or less still the same. He moves into a solar system, like brings things into being that never existed, like the Ahamkara. Oh, was it just like they came about because the conditions for Venus were right, or were they already there? Like we have no idea. Just like the Nine already existed, but then when you read the lore entries, there's the theory that the Nine were awoken, that were transformed when the darkness and the light were in combat. So, because it talks about how there were missing members on one of the ships, one of the Exodus ships, or something like that, that was sent towards the Jovians, and they basically everybody from all nine, like everybody from the ship, was transported out of the ship to another plane of existence and then brought back, and then everybody was brought back but 9 people, and so those 9 people are what seeded the consciousness of the Nine. But then some of the wiki lore is different. It talks about how the Nine were already there. They're based off of the life of the entire of the Sol system.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
really confusing. Like you can just keep going on and
yeah,
on and on. But
and that's one of the challenges of digging through the lore is that sometimes it's accidentally vague, sometimes it's purposefully vague, sometimes it's purposefully misleading, right? Um, I mean, there was a lore page from Destiny 1 which said the Nine. It's probably just called the Nine, but it basically said the Nine are, and then it gave 4 different answers as to what they are
yeah,
on purpose. Yeah. So the other half of Beyond Light that we've seen so far, you know, Bungie likes to do this sometimes. Is they'll have like the one big story and they'll have a second one that seems completely unrelated, but somehow it comes together.
yeah,
Is the Deep Stone Crypt? Um, So a lot of really interesting, just as much speculation there, chat, as well as anything else we've talked about tonight. Just as a refresher, why is the Deepstone Crypt? It's another Destiny location that's been hinted at, discussed, referenced in a few different places of the lore throughout the game. Allegedly, it is where Exo are either born, made, corrupted, remade. There again, depending on what you're reading, there's a number of different interpretations. But the cool thing is, apparently in September we're gonna get to go, or in November we're gonna get to go there. The raid that will be accompanying Beyond Light is called the Deepstone Crypt. So, yeah, Trams, have you been able to find anything that tells us what we may expect there, or why we're going?
So it's interesting because the Deepstone Crypt is like one of those red herrings that you always see throughout like big stories and stuff. But more or less, like the Deepstone Crypt, I think is just happens to be woven into the story at this point. I think because it's interesting if you listen to Cade 6 audio logs, he talks about Enceladus. He never talks about Europa. So I don't know if that's a continuity issue or if that is a complete mislead.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Or it's that there are multiple Deepstone Crypts. And I did a video about this a couple of weeks back where I spoke about the idea of different Deepstone Crypts functioning like different submines for Rasputin. So each Deepstone Crypt does a different element for the production line of building the Exos. So one maybe is for, I don't know, storing the shells. One is for I don't know, converting consciousness from human to exo. And then maybe another one is for like complete I don't know, code routines or subroutines or whatever, you know, contextual data needs to be added to the shell of an exo for everything to sync together. That could be a possibility, but I doubt it. because knowing Bungie, it's going to be a case of, yeah, it was supposed to be Enceladus, but we changed it, so here we go.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second. So, chat, let's review some of the where Deepstone Crypt has been referenced and where that comes from, and related things that may or may not be the Deepstone Crypt. So, in the Collector's Edition of Destiny 1, the Taken King? I think so. You actually got a copy of Cade's journal, and he talks about being on a waking up in a cold place, on a cold icy moon, and the way he describes it, and there's even concept art related to it, it very much looks like it's Europa. Yeah, it's an icy moon, Jupiter in the background. That pretty much fits with that. And, you know, we weren't sure what that was, just concept art, and we just continued along. During the Ace in the Hole mission, that's the one where you go to Titan and you hear all of the different last will and testaments of Cade 6. He has a message for Paladin Orin that he gives to Petrovenge. And a couple of different times throughout the game, anytime Cade has wanted to send a message to Paladin Orin, he has said a bunch of nonsense, but the first letter of all that nonsense, of each word, tells a story. So before Forsaken, a lot of people didn't even see this one as well. I forget which gun it was, but it actually specifically hints at Aldrin being bad. It says something like, Crow can't be trusted, wants power when you break down the code. So in one of these messages, Cade makes a reference. He basically says it's on Enceladus, which led many of us to believe that, oh, that must be the Deepstone Crypt, because he mentions it just before. Now, Safe asks, who is Paladin Orin? Now, I'd have to go back over my notes, but Paladins in Destiny are they're like Corsairs, right? So if you go to the Dreaming City, the Corsairs are kind of like the field lieutenants and the operatives, the awoken soldiers, and Paladins are kind of like, think of them as lieutenants. The Corsairs, think of them as as lower ranking in the field officers or just general agents, but the Paladins are generally in charge. And I don't remember if Paladin Orin is real. I don't remember if she's a real character that has her own dialogue, or if she's just part of the code, right? And it's like, oh, tell Paladin Orin, wink, and then as soon as you start giving that instruction, it tells whoever's listening everything I'm about to say is code.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in any case, he says it's on Enceladus, which made many of us believe that, well, that's where the Deepstone Crypt is. And personally, I really hope that Enceladus is not a red herring. I hope it is not a decoy, a deception, a plot error, a continuity error. I would, we all joke about Cade and how, how much of a character he is and etc. But I would really not like it if some of the last words of a, very famous hero turned out to be either a lie, which I doubt they're a lie, or mistaken, right? I mean, I would hate to think that Cade had messed up and got a planet, not just a moon wrong, but it's circling the different planet. Enceladus orbits Saturn, and Europa orbits Jupiter. That's a pretty big difference astronomically. So, I don't know. I hope that either it's never addressed and it just leaves it open, or we find out that there's something else there. Because, yeah, I would hate for it to be some kind of, oops, we changed the story again for no reason. Because we already had been designing concept work for Europa, and it seemed a shame.
Yeah, I think it's a case of it's maybe a blank there that will explain that maybe Enceladus wasn't quite about the Deepstone Crypt.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping as well.
But some other important element. So Enceladus could very much still be an integral planet for the story moving forward.
Yeah.
And maybe for Lightfall or something like that.
Maybe, yeah. So the Deepstone Crypt is interesting because it goes from either the most kind of not bland, but trying to interpret what the Deepstone Crypt is, you go from either, oh, it's a lab, it's a laboratory that, that's where the exos were made, all the way to something much more sinister. The lore card, Deepstone Crypt, a Grimoire card from Destiny 1, it's told from the perspective of an exo, who describes how all exos have the same dream. They dream of an icy tower, and in order to get to that tower, you have to fight everyone you know. And it's and then Cade references the long, slow whisper, which is, again, we don't know what that is. It all seems to be wrapped up around the concept of the exos. So, I mean, and lore that came out last season seems to reference, we've now learned a greater connection between Rasputin and the exos, and I don't know. It could be as something as minor as, oh, this is where the exos were originally made, and you're gonna discover some secrets about exos and things like that. Or it could go all the way to, oh, if we flip this switch, every single Exo's mind is going to be corrupted, and
Right.
in the raid you will have to fight an army of Exos. I don't know. I mean, lore wise, it's pretty open, I think.
Yeah, definitely. There's room to interpret, and I think that they've kind of left it like that on purpose to, because I guess they don't want to spoon feed us everything. They kind of want to allow our imaginations to run wild so that we can get lost in this fantasy world of Destiny.
Yeah. Now, I think I'm going to take a quick trip down to the Dreaming City. I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about it, so we'll set the scene. I'm not sure how many more topics you've got going on, Trams, but we'll focus on the Dreaming City for the last little bit of the stream. Chat again,
Yeah,
if you have any questions at all about any lore aspect, you want us to repeat something, clarify something, definitely just drop them in the chat, and we'll follow up there. So, Trams, why do you want to talk about the Dreaming City? I haven't heard from that place in a while.
Yeah, that's actually why. We defeated Riven. Riven is not gone. And now the Dreaming City has a curse on it, which just goes on and on and on. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes into play. I don't imagine seeing anything Dreaming City related happen until the Witch Queen. However, the Dreaming City is not being vaulted, so it'll be interesting to see if Bungie touch it at all or anything changes in the Dreaming City, because for that location to still be there, I would assume new content's going to be added. I mean, would we really release a whole DLC and nothing happens on that planet? To be fair, that's probably an oxymoron, because with Shadowkeep, we didn't have anything to do with the Dreaming City. So today is a good day because there is no taken curse. But yeah, it's interesting because the Dreaming City was originally in the Ascendant Plane, wasn't it? Before Mara brought it back, or correct me if I'm wrong about that. But yeah,
I think the Dreaming City,
their realm, the Awoken realm, or whatever that they took for themselves.
Yeah, I think at the very least, the Dreaming City is a part of the reef, the whole asteroid reef between the asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter. I think maybe it was in the Distributary. It's hard to say.
That's it. Which is the Nines realm.
Yeah. So a little bit of background here. Again, we learned. There's a couple of lore books that you can check out, chat. The one you're probably going to want to look into first is the Maracena. You get this by doing certain triumphs in the... actually, you find the eggs and the bones in the Dreaming City. And I'll put the link here so you can figure out where all that stuff is. But it basically talks about the creation of the Awoken as a people. And the short version is, apparently, they were humans who were trying to escape Earth. They really didn't want anything more to do with the Traveler or with anything like that. And as they were out there, the collapse happened. A massive, dark shockwave was approaching them, and they made a plea. Mm-hmm. They basically said, just, we're neutral, ignore us, go away. And their ship fell into a black hole, or into the Distributary, another dimension essentially, where they woke back up as Awoken, mixed color skin, strange, psychic abilities, and where they were apparently untouched by time. And Mara worked hard to kind of become their queen, to convince them, no, we need to go back, we need to actually participate in the happenings of the universe, not just live outside of them. So yeah, the Dreaming City is part of that. Whether the Dreaming City is directly a piece from the Distributary that she pulled out, or maybe it was just a hidden world It's Petrovenge mentions that there are numerous worlds that the Awoken have that they keep hidden from everyone else. I don't know how, but apparently they are able to keep entire worlds hidden, and it makes sense. Humanity got pushed back to Earth, and we didn't even know of the Awoken until until we went there in Destiny 1. That's the first time.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, I agree with you. I think the Dreaming City story is not finished, and in many ways it's set up in a very too long and uncomfortably long cliffhanger, right? So, yeah, to follow up what you were saying, I mean, we killed Riven, sort of. We created the curse. We hunted down Aldrin. We ended up killing him, or at least assisting. And yeah,
Yep.
then Marasov starts showing up, and we learn that she's, up to some plans we don't know. And one of the last things that she mentions to us before she leaves is she makes a reference to meeting a new friend. She says, I shall soon meet a new friend, I think. I think I will like her. And one of the very last things that she says is an exact quote from the Exo Stranger. And she even, when she transmats away, it's exactly the same as the Exo Stranger. So, I agree. I don't think we're going to get... can I jump down there? Let's try it. I don't think we're going to get more from the Dreaming City until much later. I mean, we're going to be focused on Europa. We've got a piece of the Cosmodrome coming back. But it still builds on my theory that this next year is going to be Fallen themed, and it's going to pivot from Fallen to Awoken through Aldrin. So one of the latest things we heard about Aldrin was during the Dawning, where he apparently is hiding. Aldrin was revived as a guardian, as a light bearer, and he is hiding because he doesn't remember his former life, and he doesn't understand why guardians treat him with such hostility. And in my view, Aldrin is the perfect balancing point between so many characters. He was the prince of the... he was the leader of some of the Fallen for a time. He was the leader of the Scorn. He knows Varix personally because Varix served his house. And finally, of course, he's Marasov's brother. So I think... I agree with you, Trams. I think the Dreaming City is going to become important at least halfway through this coming year, leading up to the Witch Queen.
Yeah, I think so. I think by January through March, we should probably get to see some echoes of Sabathun a little bit more. She's more involved than she is right now. Even though she's really involved this season, she seems to be she's deliberately interfering with everything.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, she's the whole reason we have the interference missions, and I wonder if this is gonna work. It's been a while. I haven't explored this part of the Dreaming City in a long time. Fun fact for your stream, I'm doing a bad job of it, now I'm completely lost. Awesome. I can't even summon my spare out here. Wow, alright, there we go. The Dreaming City has a lot of secrets behind it. If you are exploring and you see a rainbow, if you actually follow the rainbow to its source, you will find a chest, which is what I was trying to do, but I was running into really thick fog. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Dreaming City has been unusually quiet for a long time, and I mean, it makes sense in a way. We're dealing with our own stories. The story of the Almighty coming to crash into Earth has nothing to do with the Dreaming City. If we went to complain to Petrovenge, she would probably turn around and say, Oh, your world is under attack? I don't know anything about that. I wouldn't know how that feels. Um, but yeah, I definitely think that we're going to see more of the Dreaming City. I don't know though. I mean, there's a theory that we're going to run into Aldrin in the Cosmodrome, right? The last time we heard from him, he was in somewhere that sounded suspiciously like Earth.
Right.
We have a new location coming up. It's very likely we are going to run into him on Earth. So, how do you think the story of the Dreaming City will move forward? Do you think it'll just be maybe Savathun will finally make her play in the Dreaming City and we'll have to move to intercept it? Or or will we or someone else call Aldrin back to the Dreaming City? You know, maybe they need their prince. I don't know.
I'm not sure if Aldrin. I'm not really sure where he ties in, to be quite honest, because his entire memory is wiped.
Mm-hmm.
So he has no idea who he is or what he is. But he's still in the Dreaming City, so it's going to be interesting. Maybe, you know, one of the Awoken scouts discovers him and he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And they're like, but you're Aldrin Sov, you're the sister of Morosov. I don't know, maybe they take him to Petra Venge, and then Petra tells Mara, and Mara's like, what? He's alive? I don't even know if Mara knows that if he's dead or not.
Well, I think
I would assume she does, because her scope is very big. She seems to be... she's talked to the Nine a lot, so she's able to do a lot of things.
I think she does know, because when we first learn that Aldrin is alive, we learn it from her court. Every third week in the Dreaming City chat, you can get a bounty from Petra, do some blind well runs, and you go and visit Marasov's court. And in her court, she has a table that projects different holographic images. And that's where we first learned that Aldrin was back.
Yeah.
So I mean, technically we never saw her looking at the hologram, but I mean, it seems pretty clear that she, you know, not like she turned the TV on and left it there and never looked at it. So I think she does know. And then I don't know. I like her attitude is toward her brother is always so. She claims to love him, but she treats him just like she treats everyone else, like another piece of the puzzle, another tool. So I don't know. Maybe she'll use that to try and engender, like, you know, engender loyalty or camaraderie with the Guardians, or you know.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Morosov is one of, I want to say, so there are a few characters that are all connected. You probably know this, but I don't. Many people probably don't. But if I'm not mistaken, in the Taken King, there is a cutscene that Morosov is. What's the word? She's narrating, like she's narrating that that entire scene, and she talks as if she's actually had conversations with Oryx, and talks about how she's played her part in this story, and now it's up to you. And she talks about the king, obviously being Oryx, being king. And so that led me to believe that there were obviously Eris, Oryx, the Drifter now, obviously, and at least those three are all very, very closely connected, more so than others for this grand scheme. There's some grand picture
Mm-hmm.
that is very much connected to the Nine, and I feel like we're being set up for whatever the next big villain is, if that makes sense. Like Aramis is just she's just like a side.
Yeah.
She's like a mini boss in the grand scale of things. And I don't think even Savathun is the end goal. I think there's something else that we're missing, that our attention has been, drawn away from. And all these different people are, they're the distractions for whatever the bigger thing is going on in the background. And all I know is it's either the bad side of the Nine are a part of it, or there's whoever the darkness is, which I don't, it's either the darkness or it's the deep, because I know the worm gods refer to the deep as, the over, the alpha of whatever evil forces are. It's all really confusing, but like I'm hoping that. So I'm not sure where Aldrin fits into that. Is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
With such a large narrative going on, I feel like his part would be really small in that.
Yeah. That's why I think his main use is a connecting point, right? So he may not necessarily be like the, like for example, he's not the protagonist, but he is connected to everybody, right? So I think that's his main role. He'll provide some interesting food for thought on what it means to be a guardian. And he'll connect narratively. He's kind of the transition from one thing to another. It's going to be interesting to see. I really hope that that Beyond Light provides us with some more answers. I mean, obviously, we all love the mystery and everything, but one thing that Destiny has been doing for a little bit too long is separate story threads. Destiny, in narratively speaking, sometimes is like a child writing its story. And what I mean by that is you ask a child like to tell you a story, and it's like, well, there was a big ball that had a lot of power. Okay. Yeah, and some pyramids that have power. Cool. Okay, and then what? Oh, well, forget all them for a minute. There's also there's also these guys and time traveling robots, and one thing that we've all said is we need the story to bring itself together a little bit more. I mean, if Savathun, even if she is the next big threat, I mean, we have an expansion called the Witch Queen, and I would expect that by the end of 2021, or by the end of the year that the Witch Queen is the main DLC, I would expect her to be dealt with.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it's like, well, what's next then? I mean, if we've conquered the power of the light, as we supposedly have now, and we conquered the power of the darkness, which we should have done by that point. Yeah, what is this new threat? We've not really seen any hints toward that at all. And I agree that, Marasov, the Exo Stranger, all of these things are pointing towards something else, but they're not, wow, I'll show you what it looks like, chat. It looks like this. It's like, aha, there's something over there, right in the middle of all of this fog. So, yeah, definitely worth checking out. Let's do a little bit of plugging before we wrap this up. I think it's been good. So, if you're interested in catching up on the lore, the best I would say the best things to do would be to go to the Ishtar Collective webpage. There you can view all of it. And what's really cool is, let's see if I have it here. I think I do. I have a link right here if I can type properly. Yes. 2 links in the chat right now that show you a Destiny timeline from chronologically in terms of the story from the beginning until now in 2 different forms. One is an infographic, very detailed. You want to zoom in on that one. The other is on the Ishtar Collective webpage. So do check those out. That'll walk you through. And if you get to a point where you're like, well, I want to learn more about that, well, just search the Ishtar Collective webpage for more. Of course, if you want some more detailed analysis of stuff like that, you can check out our work. Trams' channel is popping up right now, Trams87 on YouTube, and the link is in the channel right now. Trams, what's your next video going to be about?
That is a real good question. I did just do a new video on the Ahamkara.
Oh yes. Did you go with thumbnail number 1 or number 2?
I went with neither, actually.
Oh.
I went with a completely different one. I found this really great concept art for what somebody was calling the last Ahamkara. And I thought it was very nice, so I used that and credited the artist. So
nice.
That was really nice. But yeah, for my next video, it's kind of a coin toss right now. I was tempted to do a video about the Warmind network, but I also was thinking about doing a video for new players and basically trying to bring them up to speed with not everything that's happened in Destiny, but like some of the major story points. I thought it was just a good idea to do like a short little breakdown, maybe like try and squeeze everything into 3 to 5 minutes, super fast breakdown. Welcome to Destiny, this traveler, this is what happened here, and then like finish off with leading into Beyond Light. It's one of those things that's like sounds great on paper, but it's a lot of hard work, and I'm not sure I want to commit. So we'll see how that goes. But if that doesn't work, I have another video I wanted to do on ghosts and just talking about them in general, what they are, what they do, where they come from, and
nice.
Keep it short and sweet.
Yeah, my suggestion for that, that Destiny lore one is storyboard it, see what it looks like when you have it written down, and then you can determine how many how many minutes of a video it might be. Because because I definitely enjoy. I think shorter videos are better. Like having to sit there for, I think anything longer than like 10 to 15 minutes is already a stretch. So yeah,
if I can make it smaller, I think it's easier to digest.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, personally, I like if a video is longer, then it's got to be going over many points, or it's meant to be like that. Sometimes almost like a podcast, you put it on the background while you work on something else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Also, chat, of course, if you're interested. Let's see if this link still works. Yeah, I've got a YouTube channel as well. I need to give that channel a little bit of love. It's been quiet lately because we've been working on stream. But yeah, I've got some videos on there if you want to check them out. Mostly, I mostly dive into concepts. I'm not usually one to go into, this is what's happening or whatever. Mostly because by the time I think to do that, everybody else has made a video on it. It's hard to,
right.
As you know, Trams, it's hard to like make our own way. Mitchell says, need to go. Had a great stream. Learned a lot about lore. All right, Mitchell. Thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate you being here, man. And we'll catch you later. Yeah. So yeah, you can check out those references. You can check out our channels. Trams, you're on Twitter as well. What's your handle again? If people want to contact you there.
It is Trams87, so just twitter.com/Trams87.
Cool. Yeah, but I think this is great. I mean, a little lackadaisical in terms of the format, but I think it worked out well. In a way, I guess I'm fortunate that we only had a minute-long trailer, so I didn't feel too obligated to put it in the stream because it wasn't working for me anyway. But Yeah, we'll definitely have to do more of these. Chat, if you be sure to let us know the next time, the next time that you're on, or if you want to message us what you thought of the stream, if you have questions, topics. I mean, honestly, if you guys have topics you'd like to see videos about, you could always send them to us. And say, hey, can you make a video on this, or have you made a video on this?
Yes,
We
definitely,
will.
that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, not guaranteed that we'll do it, but I mean, if it's an interesting topic that we have our own perspective on, then we're always looking for ideas to take up.
Yeah, 100%.